Hello, welcome back to Aether. Happy Sunday. And this is Satomi Paul from sakasa.ca. So
This week.
this week, what are we talking about?
Yeah, what are we talking about? Well, we're continuing our mini series on how to heal with the psychic. This is part 9. As always, questions and comments are welcome. It really enhances the show when you guys are contributing. So please throw in your 2 cents and or just wave your hand. We'd love to hear from you. And please subscribe. And if you end up liking this video, share, right? Comment, like, all that good stuff. We'd love to hear from you. Okay? So
where are we starting?
So today it's kind of last week it's kind of a continuation because last week was fear taking the steering wheel. Right. That's what our focus was, and this one is very related. It's not exactly the same, but it's about an external locus of control versus an internal locus, right? And what does locus means? It just means center, right? So it means, in other words, there's kind of 2 different modes of living your life, right? Where one is if you have an external locus of control, that means that all the things that are around you are running your show, right? So you don't give me what I want for some reason, right? Not enough candy because I don't deserve it or something, right? Then I get really upset, right? I have a tantrum. And that's me allowing you to have control over me, right? Yeah. Because I'm not happy and I'm going to throw a fit and I'm going to think of it as your problem, right? Because, you're supposed to give me candy.
Things happening to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I have expectations of everybody meeting my needs and my desires and all that kind of stuff. And that expectation and the world conforming to your expectations in general. In other words, right, things just go the way you're expecting them to, what you think is reasonable. I've actually watched people that you can observe them. They actually, in a given situation, they measure out how much patience they're going to use in this situation. So they think there's a little calculation they're doing. I'm here. And I'm expecting help from you, and I'm expecting you to give it right away. But if you're saying, "Oh, I've got to wait," and then if I'm standing there, right, and standing there, I'm going to run out of patience, maybe, right? So people always there's a habit that people run into, form in their lives, where they actually measure out based on their experience how much patience they should give any little situation, how long they should wait for the elevator door to open, right? How long they should wait for the traffic light, right, to get through the traffic light, all that kind of stuff. They measure out their patience, and if it doesn't, if it goes beyond that, they're starting to, and if it goes well beyond that, there's so that's an external locus of control.
Yeah, so it's because of the expectation.
Yes, the expectation, yes. Yeah. So based on your expectations of how the world should behave, you're going to either keep control of yourself or you're going to throw a fit, right? And that's a holdover from a very young age. Is like, if I don't get enough milk from my mom, I'm going to be upset, right? I'm going to, if I got a dirty diaper, I'm going to be upset, and then I get my needs taken care of, right? So it's actually a direct holdover from that.
Yeah,
right?
And then expectation changes when the world around you changes, like a phone, right? When you call someone, you expect to connect right away, right? 40 years ago, do we have to go back that much?
So the 80s?
Those
yeah, we had those in the 80s. We were starting to get the push buttons, but
so that
70s we definitely had the dial. Yeah.
If you dial like how many we have, probably like 7 digits we used to dial when we or maybe longer. I don't know.
Hmm.
But let's say 7 digits.
Digits?
Right? Digits.
7 numbers?
7 numbers.
Didn't have to dial the area code back in the.
Yeah,
That's true. Back in the old days, you
I
did
think,
not have to use
yeah,
the area
right?
code. Yeah.
So, so 7 numbers, right?
Mhm.
How long did it take to complete complete the
For the thing
right? And then nobody got upset
No.
or got frustrated.
But if you did that now, oh my God, there'd be a revolution. There'd be a revolution, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure, right? Because people are like, one
Just
one press, right?
Yeah.
Or if you have to hit the 10, right? Because sometimes, but it's
right. It's not the wait in between a number, next number.
And then how long you have to wait for someone to pick up? So,
Yeah.
why didn't you pick up? Right? Why am I having to wait? Why am I going through all this trouble? Yeah.
So it's like just the things changes around you, and that you have new expectation, right? And usually once expectation is like a higher, it's hard to go back down lower, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Lowering your expectations, that's a rough day. Like
then we're making our life harder and harder by doing it.
Well, yeah, because if you're constantly raising your expectations of the people around you and the world around you, any little disruption, there's construction on the road, right? And you're an unhappy camper, right? So if you're always pushing it and you never allow any room for, like, nobody thinks, oh, I better leave myself an extra 5 minutes in case there's construction on the road. Does anybody do that? I don't think so.
Lots of times I do.
You do that?
Not specifically construction, but I'm used to giving myself extra time because kids is always and kids not being on time to leave, so I'll tell them we're going to leave at least 15 minutes earlier than I would leave if I'm by myself. I'll leave like, let's say 1 o'clock. If I'm
we have 4 kids.
If I'm bringing kids, I'll tell them we're leaving 12:45
instead of
1.
Yeah. But they're pretty good. But they're good about getting ready. But still I know what you mean. But so what I'm trying to say here is that when the world around you has to be all lined up according to your expectations, for you to decide, okay, now I can be happy, right? Then what's happened there? You've given all of your power to the whole world. Everybody in the whole world, the person that's ahead of you in the checkout line. Here's my power. Here you go, right? The power being on, or like people being nice to you. You're expecting that or something, right? Or here you go. Here, people are passing on the street, right? So, here you go. Here's my power, right?
And once in a while, yes, things go smooth, and you are happy. Let's say that, and then that moment the expectation goes up, right? Okay, next, that was great, so I want that. Next time and after that, right? And then there's any little twist or something, and then you're making that space to be happy, small and small and small. Smaller.
Having an external locus of control is a guaranteed recipe for unhappiness. You cannot be a happy person. You cannot be an empowered person. You cannot you're not putting yourself in a position where you can create anything for yourself if everybody else has the control, right? So the solution then is to switch to an internal locus of control. So what does that mean, right? What does that mean? Because that means, simply for the understanding of it, it simply means to switch so that you're the one who decides
Mm-hmm.
You're the one who takes ownership of
Mm-hmm.
the situation, of your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
You take back control of your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm standing, I come up to you, like
Mm-hmm.
an earlier example, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking for some help, some
Mm-hmm.
information or some help, and you're
Mm-hmm.
busy, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the moment, I'm approaching you, so I'm expecting you to be busy doing something.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also, maybe if I have an external locus of control, I expect you to switch your focus to me at some time really soon, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like Satomi, right? And then you're very generous and you do that. But if you didn't,
Mm-hmm.
right, then if I have an internal locus of control,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to simply be patient. How long? As long as it takes. Now, that doesn't mean I stand there forever, but I can
find some other ways to do it.
That's what I mean, right? So
Yeah.
I don't necessarily
Not
need to
just
wait
wait,
there
yeah.
for 20,
Mhm.
30,
Mhm.
2 hours.
I'll kick you out.
Yeah,
if you're standing
but
right
it's standing beside you. But what I mean is, I'll be patient for as long as I'm there,
Mhm.
and I'll be considerate of what you're doing.
Mhm.
And then at a certain point, quickly after that, I'll notice that you're busy for a while. So
Mhm.
I'll go do something and come back,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Or I'll say, I might just mention to you, when you're free, come and see me,
Mhm.
right? Something like that. It's pretty simple, right?
Mhm.
So what I'm doing there is I'm not then getting frustrated with you not giving me your attention right away,
Mhm.
right? I'm owning my patience. I'm owning my decisions, right? So if I'm going driving somewhere
Mhm.
and there's construction, like there was today,
Mhm.
I was going to the store today and there was construction,
Mhm.
right? So there's a big long line of cars
Mhm.
and it's a hot day, right? You
Mhm.
could easily lose patience,
Mhm.
right? And we've got a tight schedule, it's just like normal people. But I could be impatient there and I could be frustrated with the traffic.
Mhm.
So instead of an internal, that's an external locus of control, giving my control to the traffic, right?
Mhm.
And the construction, whoever decided to have construction today. Or I could just take the internal locus of control and decide, I'm going to be patient. And there's not much else I can do in that situation because there's no way to turn around.
Mhm.
There's nothing else I can do. I got into there and realized there's construction before I could do anything about it. So
Mhm.
me being upset will do nothing,
Mhm.
right? That's the thing I don't
It
understand
doesn't-
about road
Yeah,
rage.
it doesn't
I don't
clear
get
that
Yeah.
construction.
I
issue.
don't understand road rage. Maybe somebody can comment here and ask and tell us what the deal is with road rage, right? Please help us understand because I don't get it. I mean, sure, I've been, anxious about traffic in the past. I had huge anxiety problems, all that kind of stuff. I get it. However, over time, I've gone through the process we're talking about today, and I've taken control of my own internal self and
Mhm.
decided I'm not going to. I figured out at some point, it's like, what difference does it make
Mhm.
if I'm upset at the traffic? It makes zero difference. Nobody moves faster, nothing. The only difference is I feel either upset or I'm fine.
Mhm.
One of the two. I have to surrender to the situation and let it be what it is. Whoever's on the other side expecting me to be somewhere,
Mhm.
they're going to have to wait. There's no way around it. Work, whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
And I'm going to be apologetic, of course, and need myself extra time next time. That's all I can do. Those are the only actions that make any sense. So that's an internal locus of control.
Mhm.
And there I'm taking back power from the traffic, right?
Mhm.
I'm taking back power from the situation where I was asking for your help. I'm taking my own power. And any situation like that, if you own your own choices,
Mhm.
that's an internal locus of control. If you don't own them, then that's an external locus
So
of control.
you're talking about this. So at the end, like you have a happy life. Is that the goal?
Well, it does a lot of things, actually. One thing is that, yes, you are generally a happier person,
Mhm.
far happier,
Mhm.
right? I've been able to shift my whole life circumstances
Mhm.
from a very negative environment and very negative daily experience to a very positive one. So that I'm a happy person. And would you describe me as a happy person these days?
Way less frustrated and angry and patient, and those are makes a happy person. But
I think that's soaring praise from you.
but I'm so. My question is how to heal with a psychic.
Yeah. So,
And
okay,
so
connecting this to a
what's-
psychic, absolutely. Well, so the reason why we're talking about this one is, well, let me first answer your other question first. We'll come right back to that about what else it does for your life. So, I mentioned all the circumstances that have improved, and my health has improved. So I've healed. I've healed psychologically, physically, emotionally, everything, right? So,
So when you switch to
an internal locus of control, it took quite a while because there was other things involved, but this is an important element because I'm owning my situation. I'm not just getting angry at the world, angry at other people, frustrated, whatever the case may be.
For example, what you were angry at
In the past,
when you had external locus of control,
a lot of things.
like
I was angry with the people I was around, and that some of that carried over into our relationship. I would get angry with you, right? Because you weren't conforming to my expectations in one way or another, right? But that's improved, right? So, and this is something that takes time. I don't think it's really an option for people to just switch the light switch and turn from one to the other. It does have nothing but benefits to do this. It's work, but it has a whole range of those benefits.
okay.
So now, so improving health, all of those things, right? All of things help as an essential element in all those things. Now, connecting it to a psychic, the reason why we're bringing this up in this series is that when I come to you and do a reading, and I ask you what's creating pain, right? The general answer that usually includes, in most cases, that I'm deciding to be a certain way, right? We've talked about this, about me being wanting too much perfection in what I'm working on, right? And so I'm getting anxious about it. Those kind of things, that's a decision. Being anxious is a decision. Now, a lot of times it can be an unconscious decision. So this subject we're talking about today is not an easy one. Excuse me, I got itchy nose. There's different levels to it. There's a conscious level, and you can work with that immediately. That makes a huge difference. But there is also potentially an unconscious level to it, which we'll get to in the conversation as we go through this. But for me, it was all about PTSD. When I was working with you, pretty much it wasn't the conscious variety. It was the subconscious variety that had to do with past trauma.
Because you have worked for a long time on your own.
Yeah. For quite a while, I've been working on taking ownership of my own thing, right? And so that wasn't when I was aware of it, I could take care of it. So sometimes maybe I'm not aware of it for whatever reason, right? And that can happen. And that's what a lot of time relationships are for. They bring attention to what you're not necessarily aware of, which is handy, but is also a little tricky. Does that sufficiently answer your question? So do you want me
So
to go in more detail, or?
so I don't know. I'm clear about. So when you work with me,
Yeah.
it's the answer is it's in subconscious.
Yeah,
Is that
sometimes, not
that's-
always, right? The answer is generally that. So if I approach you and I ask you, just in very basic terms, if I ask you, why am I experiencing so much pain and unhappiness in my life? There's what you can offer back is not how other people can change. What you're offering, and you may say, well, you might be helped by a shift in your career, right? I'm feeling your career situation isn't helpful to you. That happens, sure. And that when you get that kind of stuff, that's great. Or, maybe you can sense that this certain people aren't a good influence. That's also possible. But most of the time, your feedback is for the person who's getting the reading. In other words, choices that I'm making are leading to my unhappiness and my pain. Now, whether, like I said, whether those choices are unconscious or conscious is a different part of the conversation. But in other words, guides recognize our helpers on the other side, guardian angels, guides, whatever you want to call them. They know the story. They know that having an internal locus of control is central to being in our own power, taking control of our lives and being able to heal and be our authentic self. You can't, simply put, you cannot be your authentic self and have an external locus of control. So right there, that tells you a big hint as to why when you go when you work with a psychic, you're probably going to get feedback that points that out, that you need to have an internal locus of control. And here's how, right? So that's why this is part of this series.
Okay.
Yeah. So, shall we keep going, or did you want to drill down into that more? Because honestly, it's a big part of it too. Having, being your authentic self, a big part of it is simply having an internal locus of control.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't know how clear it is to everyone else. That's why I'm like thinking, pausing. So I don't know, because there's no clear example that you given. So I know what you're saying, and I can't think of any clear example that explains what you were saying. So I'm hoping that everybody is following. So that's
maybe you can point out an example.
That's
where
what
I was learning.
That's what I said, that I cannot right now. I cannot come up with example. So, so let's say when I receive messages, it's always something that the clients can do, right? For let's say the relationship with like a work relationship, it's creating some pain and negative stuff, right? So it's external, you can say that, right? But then we switch to internal locus of control, and then what you can do about it, right? Because you cannot change whoever coworker or boss. You can only change yourself, how you deal with it, how you receive the situation, how you deal with it, right? How you move forward with it. That's only you can do your part. not their part. And so the message is always comes in the form of external, no internal locus of control, of course.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's say, like sometimes when you have pain, like a food, right? What did I eat? And I'm having this allergic reaction, right? And
Yes.
so that's you're looking for the reason, external reason.
Mm-hmm.
What did I eat? Can you tell me what gave me pain, right? And then sometimes it's the certain food, and you have reaction. But I remember other times like actually that's not food. That's something in you, because you are to worry about this food, and just too much concern about how much you have to eat, and then your body is already in protection mode, and doesn't matter. It wouldn't have been a problem if you weren't concerned about it.
So
Those kind of things.
in other words, me worrying about eating a food that's going to give me some kind of reaction,
it might, right?
That it might, and me worrying about it ahead of time, or while I'm eating it, is putting me into a protection mode, and is setting me up to have a reaction. So it's a self-creating, self-fulfilling prophecy. Right, self-fulfilling prophecy. Then that's an internal instead of an external. Right.
Yeah. So and then you are you're focusing on external, right? And actually, when you come in and internal, and then have responsibility, then you can find a way out. You can find a way to heal.
That whole thing, because I have had and still do have some food limitations, is a tricky one for me, because it's so much of that is subconscious and to do with trauma.
And you dealt with it for long decades.
Yeah.
Right.
For large part of my life, I was in a PTSD state. I was traumatized, and so I was always afraid of what could go wrong. And so I was creating, and I was using the law of attraction to pull pain towards me and problems. So I got them, right? So that's what you are talking about when I have those kind of readings with you. If I ate something that somehow that was not agreeing with me.
Like you used to come to me. What did I eat? Which food gave me this pain? Right. Sometimes yes, that's true. Sometimes that's not food. It's you. Right. And so yeah, that's a good example.
And that's been very helpful to learn that, so that I can become more aware of how I'm putting myself into that worried, anxious state, and then go through a process of healing from that anxious state. Because that was my base state. That was the only normal I ever really knew in my life, was to be in a very anxious state. So I had to learn from scratch what being calm and relaxed actually was. So I think probably there's more people out there who can relate to that as well, right? So another thing to take into account here is so awareness here, right? So a big part of the solution is awareness. One of the things that we're up against is that we get social conditioning on this one. I'm going to tickly nose today. I think the base gets set, the kind of baseline that we're working from gets set by Western culture.
Okay.
Western culture is not that great at assuming personal responsibility. And I think it boils down to a large part of it. I'm not putting all on here, but a significant part of it, I think, comes down to the whole thing of materialism. So what am I referring to there is like the scientific explanation of how things actually work in nature, that it's all simply random. That, there was a big bang and it's just been, atoms bumping into each other, molecules bumping into each other, people bumping into each other, and then I happened, right? And then all this stuff happening in my life, just, the saying is shit happens, right? That's a very famous saying, and it's famous because of the materialism that our society is actually based on. And it doesn't help. It really does not help to think that everything is just random, or just assume that it is, right? We don't ask people to believe the way we look at things, but we do feel as though there is a reason for the things that are happening, right? I've come from materialistic explanation and training as a scientist. I know that stuff backwards and forwards, and I've tried to see which one to me provides a better explanation about my world, and I find that there is a purpose for what's happening. That's simply, when I'm getting upset, it's an opportunity for me to learn to have an internal locus of control, so that I take ownership of the choice of getting upset. Somebody doesn't make me upset. I'm choosing to get upset. And therefore that thing has a purpose. Even if it didn't have one to begin with, I'm giving it a purpose. I'm giving it a purpose because I'm saying that it's an opportunity for me, right? I'm regarding everything, instead of as a problem, I'm regarding it as an opportunity. And that is, again, an internal, that's, when you look at that, is it a problem or is it an opportunity? That's, problem is external locus of control, opportunity is internal locus, right? So our philosophy, one of the basic things about our philosophy is that we don't look at things as problems, anything. We look at them as opportunities, as a way of being able to grow from the situation, take advantage of it, and have it help us move forward. That's internal locus of control. So that whole idea of things just being random and shit just happening is basically, you're absolving yourself of all responsibility. You're saying, it's just random stuff. It doesn't matter.
And so you don't have control, and it
doesn't have any meaning. There's no opportunity. There's nothing.
It's going to be hard if you don't have control. Right. But if you shift being frustrated and something happened to me without me wanting it, things keep happening to me, and then get frustrated, get angry, or shift and then, okay, this is happening for me for a reason, so I can learn, I can grow. And if you just shift that, life is much better place, right? Instead of like a shit happening everywhere and all the time, every day. That kind of life pretty sucks. But if you know that universe is sending us love, and then this challenges, and so we can learn and grow, and then you feel love instead of anger and frustration, and then that's okay. Life isn't bad, right? And I am loved, right? And somebody trusts me that I can do it, right? I have a little bit doubt, but somebody else trusts me that I can do it, kind of thing, right? And then it just shifts. And if you do that every day, your whole life transform, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what you're saying, how it's a difficult life to live that way, is partly because you have no control over anything.
Control,
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just random stuff happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have no control over, and it means nothing, right? So that's that materialistic way, that materialism as a philosophy, I believe, has done no service to us, other than it was needed, maybe necessary for a period in our history as humans to check it out, to see if that was real, and then find, okay, it doesn't really explain, or it isn't really useful in so many ways about how to live our lives. So maybe we'll just set it aside, right? So then another aspect of it is that, like we're saying, that it's ignoring that power of choice, right? With that materialism, that, and just like we're saying, right? That if you instead have the power of choice, you have that gives you control. When you can choose how to deal with a situation, that means you have control. If you can choose to be upset or to be happy, you have control of your life, right? And it's not like you necessarily need control over everything, but at least if you have, in the end, it ends up being mastery. Surely what you're talking about is developing self-mastery, rather than strictly just control, right? That has some negative connotations to it. But
like you don't have to go from mad to happy. You can go from, the first step could be from mad to not mad, right?
I've been there.
Right? At least go there, and then from there you can go to be happy.
Yeah.
But because sometimes it's like an extreme, like me being happy in this situation, right? And then you want, like, that's nonsense, and that doesn't make sense. Or they don't understand what they're talking about. So just take one step away from being mad and frustrated, is not like a neutral, right? And you have a choice to be mad or not to be mad. Now, be mad, feel your body, feel your energy, and then you are wasting your energy and exhausting yourself. And then at the end of the day, you're not happy, right? Not being mad, you're calmer, and then you are not wasting energy. And when you do need some energy to do some stuff, you have clear thinking, and you have energy, and you're not exhausted, right? Just compare those two and think which one's better, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and we've mentioned this a bunch of times before. There's a lot to be said about the use of language. The English, that's another thing I think that's kind of saying the basics for how we end up in these things in our lives. Just the how in Western society it's kind of ended up in this situation where there's, I think, a lot of extra pain that we didn't need. And that's simply the way that the language is built, or used. In other words, he made me so angry. How many times have we heard that? Or he made me so sad. Or she really frustrated me, right? Or all those things. Or traffic really pisses me off, right? With that, all that stuff, right? That is that is 100% external locus of control, right? Where in reality, each of those things is a choice. If you slow those situations down, and we'll talk about an exercise at the end that'll help you with that, you'll find that underneath every one of those things is a choice that you're making
Mm-hmm.
An internal choice. So in the end, it is this internal thing going on, but you're blaming it. You're abdicating that choice and letting the world take you this way and that way. And that's just having that external locus of control. And that's built into the way we typically use language. So if you pay attention to language, you can learn a great deal. Simply your own use or the use that other people have for the language. So that's another angle. Another one for awareness. Another thing to be aware of is to be aware of the things that come after this statement. I'm not happy because blank, right? That's some of them we kind of talked about there for a little bit, but like some examples. My partner doesn't appreciate what I do. I'm not happy because I'm not appreciated. Now, there's more to the picture because you want a relationship where you have ideally some appreciation, but the fact of the matter is on your side of the fence in that equation, your need for appreciation is what's generating the unhappiness. If you let go of that need, then you are not affected by the fact that it's not there. So that's taking back control. That's an internal locus of control. There is a choice being made to have that need. And again, that can be a subconscious choice. And that's tough. And we understand that. And if what we're saying sounds like it's crackpot, like we're just talking nonsense, it might be because there's a subconscious thing going on. Like for me, like I was saying earlier, me being frustrated with you, me being angry with you doing things, not conforming to my expectations, had everything to do with subconscious fear and trauma from my childhood, right? So way back when I was a kid, even before I remember, I experienced trauma, and that meant our relationship was having trouble. So it's not a simple thing, and we get it, and we appreciate that people might be in a difficult spot with this stuff. So it's not like we're saying there's simple answers to everything. This stuff is core to life, and it's also a real project to work on and to filter down and to figure out. It can be many years, to be honest, of working through this stuff and finding the pieces, the threads of our lives that we have become accustomed to, where we're giving away our power, and we're pretending. In the end, we're pretending that we don't have a choice, or we're just not aware that we have a choice, right? Or a combination of the two. A lot of times, it's a combination. So you could say, I'm not happy. Another example, I'm not happy because no one understands me. You could say, I'm not happy because I have a crappy car, right? Why is that making people unhappy necessarily? As well, because it breaks a lot. It's frustrating to deal with. Or maybe because you would rather people think nice things about you or envy you because you're driving around in that fancy car looking all good, right? So all those kind of reasons, right? So, or I'm not happy because I'm stuck in traffic, like we're saying earlier, right? So all those things that come after that, I'm not happy because that points to an external locus of control. Let's see here. Another example is be aware that the negative subconscious programming causes the loss of control. So, so that's like what I was saying earlier about my PTSD, right? Or anxiety, or depression, or any of those things. Those kind of set the baseline again. I guess I don't know how to express this in a good way, but it sets up the parameters that we live our life, within which we're living our life. They set the ground rules. You set the ground rules, right? So you, let's say, being standoffish, right? That triggers used to trigger my PTSD, right? So that's the baseline, that's the ground rules that I was operating within, because people had because of past pain caused by in my life in the past, people were manipulating me and that kind of stuff. So that behavior of Satomi being, warm and open and then being not, right? You were doing that because I was already in a bad mood. So you were, and yours being an empath, it was painful for you to be around me. So you would kind of shut down. I would read that as you're pulling away for no reason. That's how I would perceive it, right? So that again comes back to the anxiety, which was based on PTSD. So it's the ground rules that I'm operating in are my subconscious programming. In this case, caused by trauma from my past, like we're saying earlier, right? So that kind of stuff is a huge part of that. So having that awareness is a huge part of being able to work through this stuff, and the understanding. We've kind of alluded to this through here, is the understanding. What we're getting at there is that you need to analyze that. I don't know a different way other than to analyze the situation, and I have to be stepped away from it. I can't be in the emotion. So the analysis for me a lot of times comes after a painful experience. So let's say, when we were having those fights in the past, over a situation like that, I would be angry at you because you were pulling away from me. I could sense it. And that to me was like a red alert, red alert, red alert, red alert. This could be a relationship could fall apart, right? Or my whole world could fall apart. So that's why it was really, that to me, that's how I perceived it unconsciously, right? So, and I couldn't, and as with PTSD, it's pretty much, I almost couldn't help that basically until I reprogrammed my subconscious mind. So I had to analyze, but I had to get there through that process of going through the experience of having the fight. I settle down. I step back away from the situation. If I'm in the emotion, I'm not going to be able to work through it. Like you said, when you're caught up in it, you can't think clearly, right? So after that settles down, then the understanding comes if you analyze it and you look at it. And here's the thing, you have to challenge your own bullshit. The only way through this that I know of is to challenge my own bullshit. That's my only path through this. And to gain the understanding, to put pieces together, to see, wait a minute, you're not pulling back because our relationship is ending, because that's what was going on in my head, right? That's how I read it, right? You're pulling back because you're feeling something from me, because you're an empath. I don't have that experience, but I know you do, right? So there, I'm starting to build some understanding there already, right? And then you're reading my upset because I'm already in a bad mood. So why am I in a bad mood? So already there's more understanding, right? Because you're reading my bad mood. But why am I in a bad mood? There, okay. Now we're starting to get to it, right? Now we're starting to get down to choices and causes. Why am I in a bad mood? Because I'm anxious and frustrated with my work because I'm afraid that the work won't be good enough. People won't like what I'm making, like I've mentioned as an example before, like the image like we put in like a Facebook post or something like that. I'm concerned that the event that we're planning won't work because the event poster isn't done well, right? And I'm frustrated because I can't get the fonts to work right, right? The way I want them, because I'm fighting with technology, right? So I'm frustrated and I'm anxious. I'm in that mood, and you're pulling away.
So instead of stopping, I'm angry because Satomi is not happy.
Yes.
Full stop, then you're not understanding.
Yes, then there's no understanding.
Right.
If I stop there, no understanding. If I step away and I start to look at the layers as to what led to what, that's how I develop the understanding. And I have to be willing to challenge my own bullshit, which is my bullshit is it's all Satomi's fault. She's not doing what she's supposed to do, right? Because that's bullshit.
Because it's external.
Yes, I'm
locus of
giving
control.
it's bullshit because I'm giving the control to you, right? So it's automatically bullshit. So
and you throw in your responsibility.
my
away.
responsibility and my power is I'm throwing it away. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So look for that is the only way I'm aware of working through this and gaining the understanding and putting the Lego pieces together, right? Getting down to the foundation. So there I am. I'm getting what I'm in that situation. The root of it is that I'm sitting down to work and I'm getting anxious that people won't come to our event, right? I'm getting anxious that because the poster I'm creating isn't looking the way I want it, the way I would find attractive and appealing, right? So I'm thinking that I can't get the technology to cooperate with me to do what I want it to do, right? Maybe it's because YouTube wants the format like this and Facebook wants it a different format. It's really kind of, when you start doing the stuff, it's, why can't they make it standard? I don't know. But anyway, that's another thing. So me being anxious about it, and then that's okay. I've got the light went off. It's because I'm anxious, right? So I'm gaining the understanding. Why am I anxious? Wait a minute. This might be a PTSD trigger, right? This might be because of the trauma that I went through, right? So all that understanding comes when I challenge my own BS. If I don't challenge my BS, I don't get to understand anything, and I don't work through any of this, and I don't end up letting go of that anxiety, which I was able to do eventually, and I don't. I don't get to that point of having an internal locus of control. So when I sit down to work, I can be calm.
And I can just say one thing. When you found yourself being anxious, and that one part of you feel like you shouldn't have to be anxious about this, right? But you are anxious. And why? I don't think you can just jump in and, oh yeah, because of my PTSD from childhood, that you're just saying that easily because you've done so many readings, right? So why I'm anxious about this little thing, other people are not, but I'm anxious, right? And that's when you can have a reading, and then usually it comes up like you had a negative relationship in the past life, and you might not remember, or you do remember, but you didn't make connection, but there's a strong direct connection, right? And those kind of things you can find out, and you can heal those past relationship, and then you can let go of that anxiety, unnecessary fear, right? And sometimes it's coming from past life. Either
a completely different lifetime, past life, or a past part of my own life that maybe I don't even remember, right? So either one of those are both possible. So what are we describing there in that whole dynamic? Well, I'm challenging my BS. I'm gaining understanding. I'm having awareness of my self-awareness of what's going on, and I'm working with you. So, and what I'm doing there is I'm not relying on you for all the answers as well, right? The more I rely on you for answers, the slower my progress will be, right? For one, you don't want to do readings for me every single day, or 3 times a day, right? Or 10 times a day, because that's what it would be, right? I've got to be able to take the responsibility and take ownership of my own shit, right? And work through it. So it's a partnership, so that when I get stuck, that's when I come to you for a reading, because that happens, right? I mean, I can think it through and gain a lot of understanding, but then there are times when I simply do not remember what the cause was. Or I'm simply, look, we've been through this 5 times and I'm not getting something. There's something I'm not seeing here, right? So that's when it's appropriate for me to come to you and do a reading. But it's too much to ask of you in a reading for you to put all the pieces of my life together and make it all nice and organized and spelled out and laid right out there for me, right?
Yeah, that's not my job to give you answer. If you have this math problem, and if I just give you an answer, you wouldn't learn how to solve it.
Correct.
Right. So what I receive is, and what I deliver is sometimes is answer to for the just the showing the next step. Okay, you do this way, right, and then you can keep going, right? Or sometimes you know what, you solved this kind of problems before, that math problem before. You know how to do it, so I'm not giving you any reading.
So yes, and that's
meditate.
happened. That's exactly happened.
Right.
And also, like, what I find is that you are aware, whether it's psychically or just by being in a relationship, you're aware that I am stuck on this thing and I can do the rest myself. So you help me pass that part that I get stuck on because of my own limitations. Maybe I'm too close to it. Maybe I simply don't remember. I'm not smart enough, whatever the case may be. I'm missing something, and you'll help me with that. You'll give me that, and you'll even point me over to the other stuff. Remember, you can do this other part, right? And then right. Okay, now I see how it flows, and I can take care of it from there. That's how I'm able to move forward effectively, working with it, healing with the psychic, right? And that's how I've been able to heal through all those things, right? So let's maybe switch to our exercise.
Okay. Time?
Yeah, got just enough time to slip in an exercise here. So the first one is simple, but it's very powerful. Maybe you can describe this one.
This one, what am I afraid of?
Yeah.
I'll try. So that anything and unhappiness or any issue, physical issue, emotional issue, psychological issue, it comes down to fear, some kind of fear, right? And you holding the fear, and then you have this, and then it creates some issues. And so simply, if we just doing it quickly, you can just really simply ask, what am I afraid of? Just dead honest, no fooling yourself, right? What am I afraid of, right? Like stuck in traffic and frustrated, right? What am I afraid of? Because frustration comes from fear, some kind of fear, right? And
so what are you afraid of in that situation?
Yeah, being late, the boss being angry, right? Missing an important meeting, right?
All those are fears, and that leads to frustration. So frustration is not its own thing; it's actually a mask of fear.
So asking what am I afraid of, and then you are first step, you facing your own fear, right? Instead of that person is not a good driver and creating some traffic issue, right? It's not that person's problem that you are frustrated because you are afraid of missing an important meeting, or maybe it could lead to missing a promotion, right? So that's, and then you facing that by asking this question, what am I afraid of, right? And then mask is gone, and instead of external locus of control, you switch into internal locus of control, and then you can do something. Okay, so I'm gonna be late because I'm stuck in traffic. I'm gonna just be honest and tell them that there was a traffic.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know that there's traffic jam,
Mm-hmm.
and so be honest and then go from there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if the boss is still mad, that might be their that's their issue. It's not your issue. And then you cannot change your boss. You only can change what you can do and what you can improve. Just don't take it personally, right? Or maybe uh, he had an argument with his wife last night and not in a good mood, right? That's nothing to do with yourself, and but what you can do, right? And to um, improve the situation,
Mm-hmm.
you can just go ask yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I don't know. Is there anything you want to add to this one?
No, I think that's good.
Okay.
And the second exercise, we're going to go a little overtime here, I think, but is to be aware of your feelings and challenge them and ask who is responsible.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're upset, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is related to what she was saying, but if you're stuck in traffic, and you're frustrated about it, who's responsible for that feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the people who created the accident up there, or the people who had the construction, right? Decided to do construction? Is it the government's fault? Is it whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or is the frustration actually your choice in response to what's
Mm-hmm.
going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
The traffic just is what it is, ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
So this is about challenging your own bullshit. So if Satomi is, pulling back, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's not interacting with me, not talking. Is who is responsible for me being upset with her about that? I get upset. I used to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get upset about that.
Mm-hmm.
Who is responsible? Is that your fault because you're not conforming to my expectations?
I would take that.
Yeah, no, you're not going to do that. So that's my bullshit, right? So this exercise is about challenging your bullshit. You can do that after you've settled down. It's probably more effective.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then start asking the questions. Drill down. What leads to what? Where does the chain end up?
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? It's going to end up here.
Mm-hmm.
What are you afraid of?
Mm-hmm.
So these two are related, and you can do them together,
Mm-hmm.
or you can do them individually,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In the end, that whole thing, me being upset with Satomi, I'm afraid that our relationship could go down the drain,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's my fear.
Yeah, but why?
Why am I afraid?
Yeah.
That's
Mm-hmm.
so that gets into the trauma,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's deep questions you can get to,
Mm-hmm.
and if this stuff is hard, you mentioned this before, but if it's hard, it's because of limiting subconscious beliefs, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm getting to that point and I'm realizing it's not my fear, right,
Mm-hmm.
that's causing me to be upset with you pulling back.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I afraid? Well, it's because of the limiting subconscious beliefs that have to do with past trauma,
Mm-hmm.
right? Trauma creates subconscious beliefs, and they can be very limiting, and they can have downstream effects all through decades of your life. If you're stuck and you can't get past something, if you want to be able to see what's in behind something that you're just not seeing, you can set up a reading with Satomi. If you want to be able to get past something that you're stuck on working with and the subconscious beliefs that are connected to it, then you can schedule a breakthrough session with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So both of those options are available through our website, and we'd be happy to see you. And we'll also be happy to see you next week on
Mm-hmm.
Aether. I think we're going to be here we're not here, but I think we're going to be online. I don't know for sure. So
We'll do our best to connect, and
Yes,
the
'cause we're get-
broadcast will be out somewhere, and hopefully we get service.
yeah,
So we
we're going to be in the wilderness. So we'll see what happens for connection, and we'll see what we come up with for an episode. It'll be fun. So hopefully we'll see you next week, 4:00 Eastern here on Aether, and please subscribe and like and share, and we'll wishing you nothing but the best. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.